A man suffered a tragic accident after the brakes on his bicycle failed as he approached an active railway crossing. Unable to stop, he slipped into the path of an oncoming train. A bystander immediately rushed forward and tried to pull him clear, but the train struck before he could be moved to safety. The victim, identified as Isaac Babu, was taken to a hospital but did not survive due to the extent of his injuries. This heartbreaking incident shows how critical proper bike maintenance and rail crossing awareness truly are. Somewhere in Pakistan, a train had come to a stop on the tracks and a bystander began recording as another train slowly approached on the adjacent line. It looked like an ordinary moment, one train waiting, the other inching forward to pass. But as the moving train rolled by, one passenger made a dangerous decision. Believing the slow speed made it safe, he tried to step off the train while it was still in motion. In the split second that followed, he lost his balance, slipped toward the tracks and was pulled down by the movement of the train. People nearby shouted and rushed, but nothing could be done at that moment. This tragic incident is a stark reminder that even a slow-moving train carries enormous force, and attempting to deboard before a full stop is incredibly risky. Safety around railways is unforgiving. One misjudgment can turn an ordinary day into a life-altering tragedy. A road crash between a minivan and a pickup truck quickly turned into something far worse. The impact sent the pickup sliding off the roadway and straight onto active train tracks. With the train already approaching, there were only seconds to react. Thankfully, the driver managed to jump out just in time before the train slammed into the stranded truck. A split-second escape that prevented a tragedy and a reminder of how fast a simple road accident can escalate near rail lines. Don't let your selfie kill you. In Guangdong, China, a couple walked onto active train tracks hoping to take a dramatic one-of-a-kind selfie. But while posing, they completely missed the sound of an oncoming train. In seconds, the train struck them, leaving both with severe life-threatening injuries. This wasn't a stunt or a prank, just a tragic reminder that trains can't stop and tracks are never a photo location. No picture is worth stepping into a danger zone. Do not imitate this. This woman was standing dangerously close to a freight train track while trying to take a selfie with her friend. In the middle of posing, she didn't realize how fast and how close the train was approaching. Within a split second, the train clipped her head and sent her straight to the ground. Everyone around panicked, expecting the worst. But somehow she survived with only minor injuries, a miracle considering the force of impact. Incidents like this are a stark reminder that train tracks are never a place for photos. No picture is worth your life. Stay clear, stay alert, and never treat active tracks as a backdrop. Shocking footage from Denver shows the terrifying moment a man gets caught on an RTD light rail door and is dragged down the entire platform. You can see him struggling to break free as the train keeps moving, completely unaware he's trapped. Bystanders shout for help, but the train doesn't stop until he's been pulled several yards. And somehow, unbelievably, the man survives with only a few broken bones. A brutal reminder that one small slip around moving trains can turn into a life-or-death situation instantly. This terrifying incident from Meter in Netherlands is a powerful reminder of how quickly things can go wrong at a railway crossing. Surveillance footage shows a busy intersection where a truck begins reversing to avoid traffic ahead. But in the process, it ends up trapped between the lowering railway barriers, one in front, one behind, leaving the driver nowhere to escape. For a moment, the truck just sits there, boxed in, with the driver clearly unsure what to do next. And then it happens. A fast-moving train enters the frame and smashes straight into the side of the truck with devastating force. The entire trailer is ripped apart, debris scatters across the tracks, and the locomotive drags what's left of the vehicle dozens of meters down the line. Miraculously, 5 people inside the truck survived with only minor injuries, an outcome that could easily have been tragic. ProRail later released the footage as a public warning, especially for bus and truck drivers. If you ever find yourself trapped between crossing gates, don't freeze, don't wait, just drive through the barrier. Gates can be replaced, lives cannot. Some people really try their hardest to become cautionary tales, because getting stuck on train tracks is peak. I ignored every warning sign ever. Like seriously, just drive forward, break the little wooden arm, nobody cares. The railroad company replaces those like light bulbs. But this van driver, nah. He decides red lights don't apply to him, rolls right through the crossing, and parks himself directly in the train's danger zone, like he's waiting for valet service. And in the next second, boom, the train plows through the van exactly the way physics told him it would. This is what happens when I'll make it turns into I made a terrible life choice. Lucky for him, he survived. Lucky for the rest of us, we get the reminder, trains don't slow down for your mistakes. This guy decided hanging out of a moving train was a great idea. Like he wanted the wind in his hair and the consequences nowhere in sight. He leans way out, way too far, trying to flex for the camera while the train is flying down the tracks. But reality doesn't care about his selfie angle. A pole comes up faster than his brain can process, and he gets hit instantly. He goes down hard, and everyone around him freaks out. Another perfect example of why trains and reckless stunts do not mix, ever. This guy walks way too close to the tracks like he's immune to physics. He's distracted, not paying attention, and train stops just inches from him. One tiny step the wrong way, and he would have been done. Call it luck, instinct, or pure stupidity, but he almost learned the hard way that trains don't slow down for anybody. This incident starts with a woman driving straight through an active roadwork zone like she's on a mission to ignore every warning sign in existence. Instead of following the detour, she pushes forward, gets stuck, and ends up right on the railway tracks. A man nearby starts recording and tries to talk sense into her, telling her to move, reverse, do literally anything to get off the tracks. But instead of listening, she rolls down her window and starts arguing with him, completely convinced she knows what she's doing. While she's mid-debate, the train horn starts echoing in the distance, getting louder, closer, and way more real by the second. The bystander keeps shouting for her to get out, but she's too focused on the argument to recognize the danger closing in. Seconds later, the train bursts into frame and slams straight into the car with her still inside. The impact sends the vehicle spinning like a toy. It's absolute chaos, metal flying, dust everywhere, the bystander sprinting back in shock. Miraculously, she survives with injuries but manages to crawl out afterward. A mix of luck, timing, and a whole lot of bad decisions that almost turn deadly. This is exactly why rail crossings, roadwork signs, and common sense exist, because trains don't wait for arguments to end. In Curitiba, Brazil, a bus driver made the worst gamble you can make, trying to beat an oncoming train. The train strikes the bus dead center, slicing it almost clean in half and sending debris across the tracks. Inside, passengers are thrown around in sheer chaos, but in an unbelievable stroke of luck, everyone survives. A split-second decision that could have been a mass tragedy turned into a miracle, proof that you never challenge a train. In Olomouc, what started as a routine police pursuit of a fleeing Skoda Octavia turned into an absolute disaster. The driver, desperate to shake the patrol behind him, blew through streets at high speed with zero regard for anything around him. But the moment that sealed his fate came at the level crossing in Sternberg. Instead of slowing down, instead of checking the signals, he committed the ultimate mistake. He drove straight onto the tracks right as a train was passing through. The collision was instant and violent. The train smashed into the Octavia with full force, sending metal and glass everywhere. And somehow, two passengers survived the impact. Police and rescue crews rushed in, pulling them from the twisted wreckage. One of them, the passenger on the side where the train made direct impact, was in critical condition, barely hanging on. The other suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Both were rushed to Olomouc University Hospital. It's a miracle anyone walked away from this at all. A split-second decision, a reckless escape attempt, and a reminder that trains do not forgive mistakes. A gas truck was stranded on the railway tracks with no time to move and no way out. Before anyone could react, a speeding train slammed into it at full force. The impact was instant. The truck and the locomotive erupted into a massive fireball that lit up the entire area. Flames shot into the sky, debris scattered everywhere, and the whole scene turned into pure chaos within seconds. This is exactly why stalled vehicles on tracks are a race against time. One hesitation, and everything changes. A semi gets stuck right on a railroad crossing, and the timing could not be worse. The driver realizes the wheels are jammed on the track, so he does the only thing he can do. He stays in the cab and keeps trying. He rocks the truck back and forth, shifts gears, floors the pedal, every move in the book to free the rig before a train shows up. And then he hears it, the distant horn, the vibration through the ground, that sinking feeling that the train is already on its way. Still, he refuses to jump out, knowing that if the locomotive hits only the trailer and not the cab, staying put might actually save his life. The next moment, the train slams into the trailer with brutal force, ripping it apart and tossing debris across the crossing like paper scraps. The cab shakes violently, but miraculously, it isn't struck. When the dust settles, the driver is still in his seat, stunned but alive. Pure luck and a split-second decision made the difference between a close call and a tragedy. This driver decided to test his luck at a railroad crossing even though the arms were down, the lights were flashing, and an oncoming train was practically screaming at him to stop. Instead of waiting, he tried to beat the train, one of the dumbest bets anyone can make. Seconds later, the train blasts into the trailer at full speed, ripping it apart like cardboard. Debris flies everywhere while the cab shakes violently but somehow avoids the direct hit. By pure luck, not skill, the driver survives inside the cab. Truck finds out why the crossing arms are down. This is exactly why you never gamble with a train. A guy trying to film a cool reel way too close to the tracks learns the lesson the hard way. As he poses for the camera, a passing train clips him with brutal force and sends him flying. He survives, but that one reckless moment nearly turned a reel into his final recording. This is why you never treat train tracks like a photo studio. A man tries to hurry across the tracks, ignoring the oncoming train, until it hits him and sends him flying. He somehow survives, but it's a brutal reminder. You never beat a train, you only survive by luck. A woman walking near the tracks is totally distracted, not paying attention to the oncoming train. As she steps closer, the train slams into her, but just at the right angle to knock her away from the rails instead of dragging her underneath. She's thrown to the side, stunned but alive. If she'd been even half a step further onto those tracks, this would have been a tragic, irreversible ending. A split second of awareness could have prevented the entire ordeal. A drunk guy screaming racial slurs at a group of teens leans too far over the platform and tumbles straight onto the train tracks. Total chaos, but somehow he lands just right and survives with barely a scratch. Pure luck saved him, because with trains, you don't get second chances. Two teens decided to train surf, treating a moving train like it was a social media stunt instead of a lethal machine. What they didn't realize was that a low bridge was coming up fast. By the time they saw it, there was no room to react, and the consequences were devastating. Train surfing isn't a thrill, it's a guaranteed disaster. Don't gamble your life on a stunt that has only one ending. A woman standing near the platform suddenly passes out and stumbles headfirst toward a moving train, and somehow, by pure luck, she falls right into the tiny gap between the carriage and the platform edge. 1 second earlier or later, and this would have been a tragedy. Instead, she survives with the luckiest landing imaginable. This is why you never stand close to the edge, because trains don't give second chances. A young Indonesian man was filming a protest video near active train tracks, trying to make a dramatic statement for social media. But in the middle of recording, he stepped far too close to the rails and didn't notice a fast oncoming train. The impact was fatal, and the incident instantly turned into a warning for everyone watching. No video, no protest, no viral moment is worth risking your life on the tracks. Stay clear, stay alive. In Russia, a teenage girl with her hood up and headphones on walks straight toward the tracks, completely unaware of the train rushing in. Footage shows her stepping directly into its path and getting knocked down as onlookers panic, certain they'd just witnessed a tragedy. But in an unbelievable twist, she actually survived with barely a scratch. A miracle outcome, and a brutal reminder that headphones and train tracks should never mix. A Chinese tourist in Sri Lanka had the kind of escape you only see once in a lifetime. While riding the famous coastal railway between Welawati and Bombalapedia, she leaned out for a better view and lost her balance, slipping right off the moving train. Passengers screamed and everyone feared the worst, but somehow she survived with only minor injuries. A miracle on the tracks, and a reminder that one photo is never worth your life. This lady, just like so many of the victims in these train clips, clearly believed the train is only as wide as the tracks under it. You can see it in the video. She steps over the nearest rail and thinks she's magically in the safe zone. But trains don't fit neatly inside that little metal outline. They're far wider, and that clearance zone is there for a reason. And then there are the selfie geniuses, standing with their backs to a moving train, posing inches from the rail like it's a prop. Every one of them learns the same hard lesson. The train doesn't care about your assumptions, your angle, or your photo. If you're close enough to touch it, you're close enough to get hit. This is the kind of footage that proves again why you never try to outrun or outguess a train. The man steps onto the tracks and starts crossing, but he's moving way too slowly, completely underestimating how fast the train is closing in. You can hear people in the background realizing what's about to happen, but there's no time to react. The train strikes him and sends him flying out of frame, leaving bystanders stunned and scrambling toward him. They rush to help, but it's already far too late. Moments like this show how unforgiving train physics really are. A split-second misjudgment can become a life-ending mistake, and trains don't give do-overs. A man casually crosses the tracks without noticing the oncoming train. In seconds, he's struck with devastating force. Onlookers rush in, but it's already too late. A fatal mistake from not checking for the train. A cyclist casually rolls across the tracks, completely unaware of the massive train bearing down on him. People nearby notice the danger and shout, but he doesn't react in time. The train slams into him with brutal force, sending everyone around into shock. The impact is overwhelming, a tragic reminder that trains move faster and wider than anyone expects. A moped driver rolls onto the tracks like he's got all day, either deaf, blind, or just completely zoned out because that train was not subtle. He had plenty of time to stop, but he never even looks up. The train hits him hard, a brutal reminder that ignoring warning signs doesn't make danger disappear, it just speeds it up.